I'm here to talk to somebody who is somewhat of a legend in the Irish music industry. It's interesting. Keith Johnson of IMRO asked me to do this a few weeks ago, and I penciled it into my diary, as I would normally do. And it was only when I woke up this morning that I realised that today is the 30th anniversary of the death of Luke Kelly. So it's kind of apt in a way that we would be sitting here talking and listening to somebody who has had an equal level of influence on Irish music, both nationally and abroad. I think maybe we should just get down to it. Finbar Furey, please.
Right. Right, yeah. Okay. Now when I start, it sounds like runny, you know, so you don't have to pull back about as far as fingers with it, you know.
All right, are you ready for this, by the way? Finbar, it's very nice to talk to you. We met upstairs. We've never met before, but your kind of reputation in music precedes you, I think. Just before maybe I go into the first question, I would like to say to the audience that we'll be having a kind of brief Q&A session after, where members of the audience can ask you questions that I would never have even thought of. So just think of some maybe to ask as we're kind of going through the next hour or so. You are known these days, I think, as a kind of singer and songwriter and sometime actor, which I'll also delve into at some point in the next hour or so. But you started back in the day by becoming extremely proficient on the Uilleann pipes, which were taught to you by your father. Yeah. So without this turning into a typical psychiatrist's couch, would you say that your father was a pivotal figure in your life as a musician?
Both of them, you know, my mother and father.
Okay.
You know, I never really gathered my mother's music until I got to about maybe in my mid-20s, you know, because my father with the traditional music, with the pipes, and of course, my father travelled for years with the Dordans, with Felix and Johnny, and they would have, they travelled Ireland by caravan, and, you know, horse and caravan. You have to see the maps where they went, you know. There's a book out called Free Spirits, you should get your hands on it. Okay. And it just gives you the whole, you know, input of travelling musicians from before the famine, you know, and through it, you know.
Right. And
there was there's a great history in there when we had, you know, there was the farmers needed the travelling people and the travelling people needed the farmers, and, you know, it was like that. And between them they saved the culture, you know, during the famine. And there's amazing stories, but my father's people and my mother's people came from the background, you know, and they kept it alive, you know. Even when we were kids growing up in Ballyfermot, we always got Shannon songs, or Joe Heaney would stop in, you know, because they were great friends with my father. So my father had a big influence, that side of the traditional side, if you like, or the, you know, the pipes and the flutes and stuff like that. And then my mother's side was singing, you know. My mother played the banjo. She also played the accordion, or the melodeon, she called it. It's like they're just a single row with the two vampers at the side, and she, you know, I just dropped in to see you all. And she never brought us to anything but musicals. When we were kids, my father would take us off to see, you know, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or something like that with James Mason, or some sort of spy movie, you know. But not my mother, not at all. Showboat, went Doris Day, anything that was up there, you know, my ma was into it. And she loved all of those. It was like a dream world for her, you know. She'd go to the cinema and maybe see it twice. She loved singing in the rain and stuff like that. So it was all that type of music. So one side of us, you know. So in a way, if I can just put the banjo into effect, during the time I was learning to play the pipes and growing up with the pipes and playing the whistle and, you know, learning the guitar, because we always had some sort of instruments, stringed instruments in the house, mandolins and stuff. My father's banjo, he had played the five-string, because the five-string was used for backing Irish music. People think the tenor banjo was only sort of introduced in 1920, 1925 for the jazz era. So he came in as a loud banjo, but before that it was five-strings, mostly that backed. You know, pipers, if you look back, there's very old photographs during the famine, you'll see B-flat pipers. you know, who brought the pipes to America, being backed by five-string banjo players. So the five-string was a huge part of Irish music and singing, especially with the Margaret Barry, Parker Dunn, you know, Arthur Mercian Parker, you know, and he was a great friend of mine, and the families, and a cousin of my mother's. And it was like the whole influence was the singing, the music was always there. There was no sort of in between, you know. You were fed both sides of the breast, if you like, you know.
That's a very interesting way of saying it, okay.
But a very, you know, Eola had the biggest side sometimes, you know. But like, you know, she got away. She came from Kilfenor. She had a good snout on her. She could nail him to the wall now when he needed to be. Right. You know? She was great.
When was there a time when playing the pipes for you developed into something more than just a hobby or a pastime? Or indeed, was it ever a hobby?
I loved the pipes. The pipes became too... You know, for me, I went through competitions when I was a kid. I hated competitions, first of all. You know, once I got past the age of 12, I think competitions should be left to the kids, you know. But I had some great pipers out there that, you know, I took first place. Who are out there and they have completely different styles of playing the pipes than I have, you know. But on that night, I happened to be probably a bit technically better, you know, and I won the competition. But in my eyes, they equally played as well as I did. And you've got to mention just a few that used to be around. You have Liam O'Goflynn, who's still a beautiful piper. Yeah. I like to listen to Liam, you know. And he's completely different style to what I play. And myself and Liam would be pitted against each other, you know. And like, we were kids, so we never really got to know each other. We sort of kept away from each other and things like that. So there was that sort of stupid, I suppose, regimental side of both sides of families, you know. And so when we did get to know each other and talk to each other, it was wonderful because he's a great mind for music, you know. And sure, I'm full of music. I live and eat it, you know. I breathe it. Yeah. There's not a day I go by where I think about something or put something together or talk to musicians on the phone or we're talking, putting albums together and stuff, you know.
But doing those competitions when you were very young, did you feel that you're going to have to do them? Were you put into them deliberately?
When I got to about 15, 16, I remember my father put me in for the Oireachtas. I think I was about 15, 14. And I shouldn't have been in for the Oireachtas till I was over 18. But they threw me in anyway, in the middle of the heap of all these great old pipers, you know. You had Pat McNulty and all these guys, and, you know, competing against each other, and Sean Seary, Lord, I mean, they were great pipers from the Pipers Club, and Mick Dowling and all the lads, you know, and I was thrown into the middle of them, and of course I was disqualified. And when I got home, I had absolute war with my father over it. I said, you know, don't do that to me again, you know, because it's wrong. It was wrong. But he thought, well, competition, bring home a few cups and things like that, you know, it looked better. So I won every competition. I think I got second in one to Felix Doran, and that was in Clonus. And like, I won the 4 province titles, the All-Ireland and the Oireachtas in the 1 year, you know, on the pipes. I don't think you can take them much further than that in traditional music in Ireland, you know. But I was actually limited with the pipes, with keys. When Eddie came with me on the road, my brother, because Eddie was singing, like, pipes are very limited. I'd need 3 sets of pipes to cover all the keys, or 4 even, you know. And they're very primitive, like, instrument when you get in there. There's nothing like the tone of them and the sound of them. And I make all my own reeds. So I actually used to tune the pipes up from D to E, just to get a different key for Eddie, you know, make different reeds and put them up because, you know, that's the only way you could tune them. And eventually I got the Overton flute designed. I designed that flute and Bernard made it. And that gave me a great range, you know, from the pipes. I started moving on to these flutes. So then we started really experimenting with the music. The pipes are always there if we need them, you know. But the pipes was a wonderful instrument once you got them in there, you know.
Right. And when you were sorry to
I'm just saying, if you set the pipes on a song or on a tune, like me and Eddie, I suppose, were probably the first to ever put it into a groove, if you like, you know, with pipes. You know, and Jerry Rafferty's song sealed it, you know. Her father didn't like me anyway. I mean, even back then in 1971, when it was recorded, you know, in London, it was done over like one mic. Set of pipes, Eddie is there, I'm here, Jerry is there, and Brocklehurst is there on bass. Right. And your man just says, right, you're on. And I open up with the pipes and guitar, and Eddie just goes for it. You can't breathe, and it's all over.
Right.
So it was recording, and it was live recording, you know. Right. And it was great. It was like, we couldn't wait to get our teeth into it, you know. It was fantastic. And the more we were like sponges. When we met Jerry Rafferty and Billy Connolly, we grew up with Billy and Jerry. And of course, there was others, Tam Harvey, great jazz musician, Tam, as well as being a great folk musician. We met up with Mark Bolan, T-Rex, when they were known as Tyrannosaurus Rex. They were a folk band then, or sort of hippie band, like the Incredible String Band.
Yeah.
I played at Robin's
Hitchcock.
Robin's wedding. Robin Williamson.
No, not Robin Williamson, you're right.
Yeah, and he brought James Taylor. I would have met James Taylor over for the wedding at the time. And I remember I played the pipes at the wedding, and we had a great time at the wedding. But it was like the boys running around, and it was very hippie now, trust me, in them days.
Sure.
Well, then, running around in the pajamas, you know, and like they put it on the papers now, but trust me, they did it, you know. And this was hair down to here. And they like, for the wedding feast, I think they put a half a bullock on a spit and they turned it for about 4 days till it was cooked, you know. And I don't think it came out right anyway, but anyway. They thought it was, oh man, that's cool, you know. Peas and a flour and off they went, you know. Half a cow under their arm.
Right. I just want to.
That's a great taste.
I just want to go back a wee bit before we come to the hippie.
I'm sorry, I just see
days.
the funny side and everything, you know. So forgive me.
When you were winning these Feisanna and Oireachtas and those kind of competitions, you were a teenager then, weren't you? I think.
Yeah, I won the All Ireland actually when I was 16. I won the Junior All Ireland.
Well, what was it like to be a teenager in Dublin back in those days?
It was fantastic.
Well, just paint maybe just some pictures of what you got up to, what you didn't get up to, what you did for social, you know, creativity, expression, pleasure, etc.
Well, when we moved out to Ballyfermot, for instance, you know, we moved out of Uilleann. That's where we were, right beside Vicar Street now, just round the corner. And we got a house out there, and we went to school in St. Mary's. And we travelled in the summer, never in the winter. We went to school we only travelled like summer holidays. And my father and mother and they were both went to school, you know, so they put us into school. So we got the same, we waited for the house the same as everybody else in the centre of Dublin. It was overcrowded. You had the barracks all there, the back out there, it's all gone now, all that squalor, you know. And there was all sorts of walks of life. There was dealers, there was travelling people living together, there was sort of all different, you had Yiddish people living there, you had all people, all walks. It was amazing, it was like a big melting pot, just this area, you know. Right. And then all of a sudden they built Ballyfermot, we moved out there. But it was wild, it's like going into a forest. It was just amazing, you know, when we went to Ballyfermot. We couldn't believe that. It was like, you know, Toy Town. All the houses stuck together, and we loved it, you know, because we were running around the house, you know, going echo, echo, echo when we got in there. I can still remember as kids. And I thought my mother was an absolute genius because she pulled open this drawer and she pulled out, you know, black and white pudding and sausages and a few eggs and rashers and the things you'd have like for a quick meal before bed. Like, and this was when we moved into the house, and she just pressed this button, the gas went up, and I went, "Jeez, it'd be mother, it's magic," you know. All the sausages, and I was looking in the door to see what else she had in there, you know, she was going to take out, and I got a little slap on the back of the head. She says, "Get out of here," she says, "I was here yesterday, I put a shilling into the gas and I filled the drawer up." She was there the day before putting it all in there, you know. And did you ever travel into the city centre? I presume you did. All the time. We used to walk in when we were kids. Like we went to Arbour Hill. I wouldn't say we boxed. We made a few shapes in Arbour Hill as kids, you know. So we fancied ourselves from about 12 up to about 40. And then we met our match over, you know, but that was the end of it. And we went back to music then. It was easier. But my father wanted to toughen us up, you know. We mitched more from the boxing club. We'd spend in the Phoenix Park playing music with a few of the boys, you know, whatever. But we had a great time. Yeah, it was like my father gave us great freedom and great trust. You know, I still remember at 17, 18 years of age, you know, and I'd be in the house, and the front door would be left open to around 9:30. And if you weren't in, he'd let a whistle in case you were around the place, you know, he'd let this whistle go. And it was like a family whistle, you knew it. And I'd look at my watch and say, "I better get in, it's 10 o'clock. And I always would go in the house at 10. Even up till I was about 18, 19, I would, like 12 o'clock was late for me. Really? But he'd say, "Get in before 12, you don't need to be out." And it was a lesson he learned us, you know, we all respected him very much, you know. And what was the music like at that time then? I mean, was it all traditional music? Was it all folk music? No, there was different. You had people like used to drop into the house with Willie. Clancy would drop over, you know, and Willie would stay for a couple of nights, you know, my father. And Felix would drop in from, you know, Manchester, and they'd play the pipes all night. And then you'd have a few of the aunts that drop in from, you know, down in Cork, you know, or the uncles, or, you know, in someone was always in the house. There was never, like, there was dead bodies everywhere in the morning when you wake up to go to school. There'd be fiddles and flutes and pipes. You had to be very careful where you stepped, you know. Half bottles of Guinness all over the place, you know. And my mother would say, shh, you know, the boys just went to bed an hour ago. And we'd be getting ready to go to sleep. But would they be playing music? There'd be sheets of music on the table where they'd be scribbling out bits and scraps of music. And they wouldn't have gone to bed like pissed out our brains. They would have gone to bed with maybe a bottle of Guinness or 2 bottles of Guinness and a good chat about West and East and how the music. That was the way of, you know, there was no email and stuff like that. That was the way of collecting their music. And then my father would go down to Clare or Galway and take some tunes down, and that's the way it was passed around. So I grew up on that, you know, and I loved Joe Heaney's company above anybody that stayed in the house. Joe was a very serious human being and very, very passionate about Joe. People used to think Joe would get angry, but Joe had this, I'm the same, you know, it's like that, I don't know what it is, when we're expressing something, he'd grind his teeth and he'd go, no, you have to sing this like you've got to sing it straight from your soul.
How old would he?
He'd shake while he'd be telling you how important it was to your heritage, you know. And he used to teach me.
How old would he have been at that point?
Me?
Roughly, no, Joe.
Oh, Joe. He would have came back from Glasgow just then. I think he had a bit of a tough time and he came back from Glasgow and he wanted to settle back in Ireland. He lived in Glasgow for a while. I don't really know. Okay. Joe always looked old to me, you know, because I grew up, Joe was like, you know, he always looked old, you know. Fine. And I never asked him his age. He was, I think, one of the greatest welcomes I got from him was when we arrived with the Clancy Brothers in New York in 1968, when Tommy Makem left, the lads, and Paddy had approached me, and Tom and Liam, would I join up? And I brought Eddie with us, you know. They didn't want Eddie in the beginning. They said they just need me because of the banjo and the whistle. So I wouldn't go without Eddie. I'm not splitting up with my brother, and I wouldn't do it anyway, you know. And so we made a deal and off we went. So we landed in New York, and I remember we walked into the Lion's Head in Greenwich Village, and Joe Heaney was sitting there waiting at the counter, and he put his arms around me, and he gave me the biggest kiss I ever got off any man on my lips. And he looked at me and he says, Jesus Christ, he says, the music has come to America at last. And Liam Clancy says, shut up. I was just messing, you know. He was slagging the boys. The music has come to America at last. And it was lovely to see him. And I spent the whole day talking to him. He'd gotten jobs here and there. But what an absolute... He should have been minded. He was a treasure for this country. He should have been teaching in universities and teaching the kids, and, you know, instead of chasing shadows around the world. You know, his place was here, you know. And every time I used to see him in New York, it was awful, you know. Like to see where he came from, the beautiful background he came from, where he had to do for a living in the end of his life, you know. And then, of course, you get a lot of fellas. He got himself into a lot of debates, you know, where he was very good to handle. He was better than Brendan Bean at it, you know, and you'd watch him and he'd just make absolute shite of the fella that'd be interviewing him, you know. And he was gorgeous, and he wouldn't do it in any malice. Your man wouldn't even know he was hit. You know, he was magic. He was just so beautiful, you know. Just very Irish, you know, wonderful.
The period of time leading up to when you and then Eddie were asked to join the Clancy Brothers.
Yeah.
What was that time like in relation to your own music and what you and Eddie were doing?
Well, at the time we just finished a tour with the Currys. They were the equivalent, I suppose, of the Clancy Brothers in Scotland. They were a massive band, you know, the Curry Folk Trio, they were called, and Paddy Bell. And we'd done a British tour with them, and we'd done Hootenanny. We did this programme, which was done by Gordon Smith, and Gordon had written Come By the Hills, the song Come By the Hills to a Land Where Fancy is Free. And he'd written for Eddie, and Eddie was the first one to ever sing it. So Gordon Smith had written it for us, and we sat it on the pipes, and of course, the Scots fell in love with us straight away because he worked for BBC Scotland at the time, and he did a lot of folk programmes. And he was a very interesting guy, you know. He taught us a lot about Scottish folklore that we didn't know. And then touring with the Currys, I became very friendly with Roy, who wrote Florida Scotland. And myself and him became buddies. He was probably, I'd say, one of the best friends I've ever had in my life, you know. And we did a trade. I wasn't really a great guitar player, so I said I'd teach him to play the flute if he taught me to play the guitar. So we had lessons from each other, and so we ended up being great buddies, and so much so, and when we got married, I met my wife and Sheila in Edinburgh, and when we got married, he became best man at our wedding, and I was very proud, you know, to have known him. He's a beautiful man. And I remember when he'd written Flower of Scotland, we were in a place called Castle Terrace in Edinburgh. It was owned by Diane Halley. Well, she didn't own it, she rented it. She was from Belfast. And she was a Protestant girl from Belfast. And I'd never met anything like her that was in love with Irish heritage like this lady was, you know. And she made room for everybody. And our flat was a big sort of an old sort of Georgian flat, you know. It was, you know, that wonderful sort of red stone that they have over there in Scotland, you know, sandstone. Anyway, it was, and they had this big flat at the top, and it was like a commune. Peggy Seeger and Hugh McCall would stay there when they'd come up, or Billy Connolly would stay in Jerry. We stayed there all the time. It was our permanent residence, me and Eddie. We just dump everything in there, you know. And we never paid a penny rent. We took it as our own, opened the fridge, and she said there's food in there. Not once with this lady. And without her help, trust me, Billy Connolly and Jerry and myself and the boys, we'd have gone hungry a lot of the times. She was a great lady. So it was like a big commune where we all gathered in session together. And Flower of Scotland was actually finished on the floor of that flat, you know, over a bottle of Bell's whiskey one night, you know. And we said, we're going to finish this. And we watched Roy finishing it, and he sang it the next day. And it was wonderful. It's now the national anthem of Scotland. So there was all that history with Roy and Ronnie Brown. Of course, Ronnie was like, he still looks like Superman, you know, today. You know, Ronnie, he was very Scots and very beautiful, and what a great singer, you know. But they were totally different, two completely different guys. Roy was like mad into Indian music, Pakistan music, Arabian music. He was mad into Shanos. He was absolutely he like myself, he just lived and loved music. Like the two of us were dangerous when we got together because we'd crack open a bottle of whiskey and, you know, we'd just talk about music all night, you know.
The one thing that possibly many people in the room know, but maybe there might be one or two who don't, how you kind of manage to kind of integrate the uilleann pipe into, as you said earlier on yourself, into some kind of a groove. I mean, that might be the wrong word to use, but you used other instrumentation along with the uilleann pipes, the guitar, the banjo, the mandolin, which kind of hadn't been done before, I don't think.
No, I have a photograph which is very funny of my father in 1934, and he's got a bouzouki and he's singing with it at Puck Fair. And 1934, he would have been 19 years old. So you have to think about, you know, that. Like, and then you go, like Eddie used to play a thing called a giffin, which is an Irish instrument, which is an Irish version of a bouzouki, you know. And Eddie played it all the time. You see it on the old photographs. But it was lovely that all the instruments, like the tenor banjo, got knitted in, you know, through, and especially through Barney McKenna. Barney really made the tenor, you know, put it out there among the public. And then, of course, you had Johnny Keenan, young John Keenan, who was a total master on the banjo. But Johnny was opposite of Barney, complete opposite, you know. Johnny just loved sitting in the corner and playing, but man, what a genius as a banjo player. And also, I grew up with him. He was a month older than me, and we were joined at the hips when we were kids from travelling back down. And a lovely lad. And, you know, I cried my eyes out when he passed away, you know, he died of cancer, because we were inseparable. You know, until I went to Scotland with Eddie up to 1967, myself and John were never, ever separated even when we were kids. We grew up together. So it broke my heart to leave him behind. He wouldn't come. I asked him to come with us, and he wouldn't come. And I remember he saying no. He said I wouldn't be into it. He didn't like the stage, you know. He just liked playing his tunes and that was it. But like, you know, to come back and you look at, he has his festival now in Longford. That's lovely, you know. And Paddy is out there playing great pipes. I was talking to Paddy in Mayo over there for a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And they did a lovely programme for PBS television with Matt Malloy. And it was lovely to hear Paddy and Matt playing together. And they played a few of the old Botty band stuff, and it was great, you know.
But you were involved also with Paddy Keenan as well back in the day, weren't you?
Oh yeah, myself and Paddy grew up together, yeah. Paddy would have been... Paddy actually carried me pipes when I won the Oireachtas in 1964, and he was 13 years old, and there's a great photograph. He has it, the two of us standing on O'Connell's Bridge, and there's Felix Doran, and there's his father, old Johnny Keenan, there's my father, there's my uncles, and just forget it. If you said anything about the travelling people on College Bridge that day, we were gone over the top of the wall, straight into Liffey. And we were proud. We were going to take this cup. It hadn't been taken since Johnny Doran took it, you know. So we took it. But it was fantastic. It was something that wasn't mine to belong to that. It was theirs, you know. And so I can't describe it to you. It's just, it was a pride, you know, that my father would always say. He would never give you a huge thing. He'd say, well done. He'd give you a thumbs up. That was good. I like that. He'd never say, you know, you're the bee's knees.
Sure. Okay.
You know,
okay.
It was a simple just thing. It was like another task, you know.
You mentioned earlier on that you were in New York. That's when you met Joseph Heaney again. And the Clancy brothers.
Yes.
Maybe could you mind just going into that a wee bit? How you were asked to join, why, and what that experience was like?
First of all, I must say that the Clancy brothers, to me and Eddie, were the best teachers I've ever had in my life on stage. These guys taught us stagecraft. We watched them every night. We couldn't believe how. I mean, we walked into New York and they did Carnegie Hall for a week and sold it out in 1968. That was our first gig when we went with them. We were playing Stafford University. It was a gig put together by a guy called Tony Savage. And he was an opera singer one time. He used to call himself Tony Salvarizzi. And he actually studied under Gili, this guy, right? So he used to put the gigs together for us in Stafford University. He did all the sort of, I suppose, you know, folky gigs, you know, beyond Cecil Sharp House, I suppose, and the Nazis, the folk Nazis that are called years ago. Oh, geez, you couldn't move, you couldn't fire. I think Ronnie's description of them was best. He used to call them the folk police. Anyway, well, we had huge falling outs with these guys. You don't want to go in there. There was a war, you know, myself and Eddie especially. Anyway, we just go straight in, you know. We'd say, where did you get this from, this information from? Like, and anyway, we'd lock horns with them all the time. But we did the Singers Club, and Peggy Seeger tried to split. Lord of Mercy and Pete Seeger died the other day. I met Pete as well, 94 years of age.
Amazing, isn't it?
Wow, you know, he did so much for folk music as
Absolutely.
well.
Yeah, no
But I remember when we met Peggy first and you McCall, when we did the Singers Club, you know, invited down. It's very special to be invited down now, you know. You were the bee's knees. And of course we made our way
Well, it was
down.
kudos, wasn't it, to be invited down
Oh,
there,
yeah, it was like you were hitting the top of the ladder now, and I started going into the universities after that.
Yeah.
And we started with him, we put a great program together of some great Irish songs and stuff that we wanted to do. And the minute we got there, the guy that was running the club for Peggy and Ewan McCall came over and he said, we don't want Eddie to sing while you're playing the pipes, and we don't want him to play the guitar when you're playing the pipes. And I said, sorry? Now, we had no money. We just got there. We had a few bob, but we needed this money for this club, and it was a lot of money. And I said, Eddie, what are we going to do? And this was the rule of the club. They could do what they like. I said, they're going to split us up. We'd never been split up. We had never been split up in our lives since we were kids, ever. Nobody ever split us up. But we needed the money, and this was a huge thing. And Eddie says, I'll sit downstairs, you do the gig. And I said, no, you come up with us. I said, play the guitar with me. No, you don't want it. I remember the argument, me and Eddie, and I nearly walked out the door, but we needed the money. But fair play, in came an entourage. There was people like Raymond Rowland, the flute player Roger Sherlock. All the lads came up from Camden Town, all the trad musicians, and of course they didn't know who Hugh McCall was or Peggy Seeger. They wouldn't give a care anyway. They just wanted to play reels and jigs all night, you know. And of course they found out I was in town playing the pipes, and I'd won all these competitions, so they wanted to hear me play. So the door was bursting with Irish musicians anyway. So I said I'd go up, and so I went up, and Eddie said he'd stay for a while. So he sat this side of me anyway, and we played, and he came over and he sang a song with the pipes, but he didn't play the guitar. And then at the end I said, get your guitar. And like they couldn't stop it now. I mean, this roof was coming off, and the Irish people that were there wanted more. And I'd finished with the fox chase and the pipes. And trust me, you never heard it played like this. I took it apart on stage, you know. And I was angry with it too, you know. And the passion took over. And like I just went into a fifth gear, and it's like, got 20 fingers on each hand. You don't want to know. It just goes into a wheel. And they were just blown away with the whole thing, you know. Roger said, so I dragged Eddie up And I said, do the new one we practiced. This was while they were all shouting for more. So Eddie went, chunk on, pam, patamina, what would you do if I sang a tune? Would you stand up and walk around me? Bap, 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 tell me you're here. And we did it. We did the whole fucking song. And we stood up, and I stood up at the pipes, and we sang, and we never went back. I said, what the hell do we need to go in there for again? So we went straight to Coventry. And I remember I promised to go back to Scotland because myself and Sheila were going out together at the time. So I'd made the promise that I'd come back. And we've set up campings in Coventry. We'd met some great musicians, Gib Todd, and people that were really involved in music and didn't want to be, waving a flag around with it or being a conductor. So we met real people again, English folks, things like Martin Carty. We bumped into Martin, it was great. And the Dransfields, Robin and Barry.
Yeah.
And Ralph McTell. When we met Ralph, sure, he was our total hero. Because Ralph was just an English version of Jerry Rafferty, only the same sort of mode. And he had this, we call it the nya. They had this groove, and we wanted to get in on this groove. And of course, if you break the pipes down into jigs or reels, you can actually groove them, just like you groove any sort of music. Sure. But it's so, and of course I was playing all these reels and jigs, and the boys wanted to get these real rhythms off Eddie, because Eddie was great right hand back in the reel. So, like Dave Stewart, for instance, sat with me with his guitar, and I'd be playing reels and jigs with the pipes, and he'd said, just learn the back, because to move the hands on the chords. And they were like, they turned them into rock rhythms, and it was great. So we were a part of giving some back with it, and they were mad about the pipes. But coming back to the Clancy Brothers, I remember looking at it. Thank you. Just again, come back.
15 minutes later.
I never get lost, But it's just giving you an in detail.
That's just like Billy Connolly, you never get lost.
Let me come back into Stafford University now, and you can see what we'd risen. Okay. We're among the risen people now. We're actually in the university, and we didn't need a degree. It was brilliant. And we had this place sold out, and it was a great night. And when I mean sold out, you'd have 200 people maybe, which was great. And no microphones. Like it was total acoustic, and we liked it that way. And I saw the three Clancy brothers at the door, Liam, Paddy and Tom. And I said, I blessed myself, I remember saying to them, because we knew the lads, I said, Jesus, there's somebody dead at home. There must be something wrong, my God. And I said, and I got a fright, I really did. I said, Jesus, I hope it's not my mother or me. Because, mobiles in them days, Yeah. So there were like three ghosts as well. Anyway, we finished their gig and we met them, and they brought us to this hotel, and they talked to us about joining up. So Paddy said, as I told you, Tommy had left, and they just said, again, we wouldn't break up, we wouldn't split up, and we'd never split up again, and that was, we'd never do that again. That was the Singers Club for us, Okay. And for us, Cecil Sharp House. We've played in Cecil Sharp House. We've done great concerts there, I've seen the Dubliners doing terrific concerts there and supported them, Gone down to see the lads, and vice versa, they'd come and seen us, And trust me, they had a battle on their hands in the 70s and late 60s, especially in Britain, getting the Irish music through there, And they got it through. And when you look back at Jerry Rafferty and the boys, they broke down that great door, pushed it forward. Anyway, the Clancy Brothers, they brought us back to Carrick-on-Suir for rehearsal. This is a funny one now. You'll like this. And they tried me singing. Of course, I don't sound nothing like Tommy Maker, And the Dublin accent, they said, jeez, what are we going to do? Because, they'd go, I tell me, man, when I get home, the boys won't live together alone. Oh, they're pulling me hair and they stole me home. So I was sticking out like a sore toby, The elbows played, And he said, no, this won't do. So there was a bit of a panic, so they tried Eddie. Worse. Jeez, gone all together. No hope. So Bobby, who used to be with Peg, it was Bob and Peggy Clancy, or Peg and Bobby. Bobby's a great friend of mine, was years ago, lovely man, Lord of Mercy. And Bobby was sitting in the corner, and I said to him, did you try Bobby? So they brought Bobby over, and they tried him. Jeez, he like a glove. So instead of 5 when I was heading off to America, now there was 6 of us. Okay. 4 Clancy brothers and 2 Fureys. And did we have fun for 3 years with the lads? They were priceless. and they made sure we were all right. First, number one, they took care of us, you know. And that's the truth. They were great ambassadors for Irish music.
Did you, when you were in New York, did you meet, for example, Bob Dylan, or was that kind of?
I only met him
he was
once.
far
I
removed at
met
that
him
stage,
briefly
presumably.
in a place called the Marriott Hotel in Chicago. And he was a big man. Afterwards, I remember Liam Clancy telling me his name was Al Grossman.
Oh, yeah,
He was his
I
manager.
think, yeah.
And he had these blue glasses on him, you know, I still always remember it. And a big coat. And they came into the hotel, and Liam, of course, was great pals with Dylan, and they went into the corner, had a chat. So we were just sitting here, so it was one of them, that was it, you know. Because we were just a blur in his eye at the time, you know. Yeah. And nobody, he wouldn't have known who we were anyway. We were only kids, you know. I think I was 22 years old, you know.
Okay.
And but it was great to see him, you know, and that was it. And he left an album for us, I remember that. And but I loved the Blowing in the Wind long before I'd met him, you know. I'd heard.
I mean, would he have been an influence? I presume he was an influence on you.
I liked him as a poet. As a poet,
As a
you
poet,
know.
okay.
I did enjoy. He's a strange way of putting his music across, and it was like it was only when I worked with Ramblin' Jack Elliott. I did an album with Jack Elliott and Daryl Adams in Germany in 1978, and we toured the album with Danny Thompson on bass and Daryl and myself and Jack. It was great, a little tour. And when I heard Jack Elliott, geez, I closed my eyes. You'd swear you were listening to Dylan. Only it was perfect, you know. And then I talked to Jack about it, and Jack says, "Yeah," he says, "Dylan stayed in my flat, and I was so honoured because he says he got his influence from Jack." So it was great to work with Jack in the end, and anyway, you know, and he loved Dylan, you know, he really loved him, and that's good enough for me. So did Daryl, you know. They're great, they're great buddies, you know. I think he's done a lot he was one of the, no matter what people think of him now, you know, during the 60s, he was one of the knights in shining armour that led it, you know.
Well, he kind of changed everything,
well,
really.
people change, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we all change. So, I don't know. We don't know that. We don't know what goes on in another guy's head, you know.
No, true.
And we're not there to judge him. We're just there to see what he's done, you know.
Yeah.
And what he's done, I think, is important, not what he's feeling, you know. What he's feeling belongs to himself. You know?
You have brought a banjo with you. Is it just going to stay there?
Are you getting bored?
Possibly.
No, no.
Possibly. Do you want to take it out for a few minutes?
Yeah, I just want to show you this.
Okay.
And then I'll just play a couple of little demonstrations. I'm going to bring the pipes and then no. I'll bring the banjo instead. You'll enjoy this. This is a banjo that I got there. My wife found it on the internet for me. And I couldn't believe it when I got my hands on it. Because I'd heard of this instrument. And it had been played by Daryl Adams a long time ago. And it was made in, this built from the bottom up, you know, by a guy, he was a luterist or you know.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Oh, wow.
This is a phoenix rising from the ashes. And this is a Gibson master tone. But so original, there's no Gibson written on it. He worked for Gibson. And this is all built for Gibson. It's like the whole thing is like a copy of Gibson. But if you look at this inlay, it's unbelievable. You can have a look at it later on, and it's all here. But every one of these pieces are put in by hand. And it's an affiliation banjo. In other words, the strings are very low, you know. So it's not finger picks. So let me show you how it works. So if you want to sort of put. Begging change on the street. Can you spare a thought for me? Those days are gone. Bad days are gone. And there were times in my life I wished I'd never been born. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. 'Cause I found me a woman for the rest of my life. And I love her, money, heart and soul. Once in California I got drunk with the Lord. Those days are gone, bad days are gone. 'Cause she wants me to sing all my love songs for her, only for her. And she wants to make love to me passionately every evening beneath the stars above. She wants me to sing all my love songs for her, only for her. And she wants to make love to me passionately every evening beneath the stars above. So this is a breakdown. It's like it's very simple. If you're learning to play a banjo and you want to sing with it, just it's so easy. This is the way my mother used to play it, and she sang. It was like singing something. Look, I'll do this like. I was further than I thought I was, for my burren home of Clare, where the giant cliffs of Moher rise, as if the hand of God were there. But this New York, it's a mighty place, where the sun peeps through sometimes. It's not grand at all, just a lonely place, where the soul could lose its kind. And still I suppose the same is said about Dublin, Belfast, Naas. Don't we all have little tiny homes where the heart can be encased? I was further than I thought I was, till I fought for Beacon Hill. Now I'm here to stay. Come what may, where my belly it can be filled. This old soldier's home is just a job, and they're very fond of me. Should he calls me Pat, but my name is Mike. I'm sort of used to that, you see. But still I suppose the same is said about Dublin, Belfast, Naas. Don't we all have those little tiny homes where the heart can be encased? Very simple.
We're going to the 70s now, because the Furey Brothers are now a unit. There's yourself, Eddie, there's your brothers, Paul and George, and you're becoming more and more successful, I think it's fair to say. Was it champagne and roses or Guinness and Spuds those days for you?
Oh, Jesus.
And indeed the band.
With the band?
Yeah.
I don't know if we ever got into it. I think there was one day we were going to Austria, going through all the way down to Germany on a 57-seater coach, and like we had more people in there, musicians. There was like a flat inside in the bus, and somebody decided to get Bucks Fizz, orange juice and champagne, and I'd say about 3 hours later we were all pulled up at the side of the road, throwing our heads off. Oh, never again. We just weren't used to it. We pulled up at the next place and got pizzas and said, oh jeez, hell with that, a few beers. No, we were never that way. There was no None of the boys, I never saw the boys, like, we did it for rent when we were kids. I mean, we busted and paid rent from it. It didn't, this music was bigger than us, It was always bigger than who we were, And it was part of our heritage. It wasn't just, this thing wasn't a fling we were taking all over the world because we got lucky and had a lucky album. I mean, we were doing this music. We won competitions and things when we were kids, and we were groomed to play it, My father put us into suits under the size of these lads, and we played on the streets with them, And he'd leave us there. But in the end, we never saw anybody, We just played, It was great, and it was a great stage for us, and he'd come and join us. But there was in them days, nobody bothered you, You could let kids loose and play the whistle or whatever that, pick up later on. And we had great friends around us, But no, it was just rent. I mean, the very first place we ever got as a professional gig, if you like, as kids, we got 30 bob. And that was playing O'Connell's pub, and it was right at the top of where Stevens Hospital is. It used to be called the Brown Derby. And then we got another place called Joe Ryan's. It was Ryan's place. It used to be beside the Labour Exchange there, Christchurch. A great pub, big room. So he booked us for another gig, and I remember he paid us 10 bob more at the time. That was me and Eddie and Paul. And Paul was only a baby, shouldn't have been allowed into a pub in them days, And neither of us, we didn't drink or anything. And then there was, I remember Mick McCarthy then got involved, and he built the embankment. So Mick used to take us out in the embankment, I actually played in the embankment for Mick when I was 12 years of age. I made 11 and a half. I made my confirmation, and he kidnapped me from the house with the pipes. And my father found me up in the embankment about 12 o'clock at night, covered in sweat, playing the pipes, and Mick shouting out laments to me all night and pieces of music to play at the pipes. But I tell you something, when I came into the house that night, and I put the bag down with the few bob in it, me outfit, I said, "Jeez, that Mick McCarthy's a decent man." He was going to kill him before that, keep me all right. But Mick was great, and that would have been Mick's first sort of, there was only a tiny pub, the embankment, and then he built the bigger place out the back.
Yeah.
And I remember the Dubliners getting together, Bobby Lynch was with the Dubliners first, and Luke coming back, and Luke joining up, and John Sheehan joining the Dubliners. I was there during all that time, and the Clancy brothers used to come home from America, and we'd all meet up in Donegal's, and of course, the boys were the bee's knees. They'd throw and drink into all the lads that we didn't have the money for it, and the boys they're back, pay up, to be a queue of points for up at the lads, and it was all great crack, all great humour. There was no jealousy or anything. It was just all great.
Right.
As I said, the music in them days was bigger, It didn't belong to the Clancys,
Did that
and
change?
they knew that, and it didn't belong to the Dubliners. We all knew that. They were bigger than us,
And that didn't change in the 70s when you became more successful?
I think the 70s changed big time. I don't know what happened to the 70s with folk music, because somebody decided to put a badge on it and claim it and own it. It became very military. It was like everybody played the same note. There was no freedom anymore. So like somebody had locked it up in a box and said, "Hang on, this is mine. I put another for you." When we came back to Ireland, we couldn't believe there were so many different traditions. So when we left Ireland, there was only one tradition, Irish tradition, and we all had our little different styles. But geez, it was like, somebody had joined the British Army and didn't come back, there was that much of a division, and you could feel it. It was very, very obvious. Scary, because the people that were sort of putting the foot forward were the people getting in there. And it was all a bit money oriented in coming from different backgrounds and shit like that. But we fought through it, and so did all the boys, the inner street bands like Christy Dingham and, the boys. I watched the boys go through in the rock scene, Don Baker and, and all the lads, Brush and all the boys, go through it. Even Phil Lynott, went through the same thing. But they broke through it, you get through all of that sort of. These guys are not going anywhere,
Yeah.
They're too fond of going back to like music becomes important to them because it's popular at the time, But we did it for a living and we always will. So we used to sit back and watch it happen because we knew it was going to fizzle out in a couple of years, There's no way they'd keep it going,
But yet there were a couple of, having read up on your kind of life over the last few days, there were a couple of things that surprised me. One of which, you were presented with a Single of the Year award by John Peel, and I would never. Before I read that, I for some odd reason, I would never have matched the Furey Brothers with John Peel.
Yeah. But
so
this, people see us as the Clancy Brothers and Sweet 16. They didn't know what we did, again, read Free Spirits, the book, and then you'll understand it, you know.
Okay.
Like, I think the best one was Steve Lillywhite said to me when he met me, my God, he says to me, mate, he says, you are the most closely kept secret in Ireland. And that's what he said to me, you know, I've never heard pipes played like that in my life. And I went, oh, wow, well, that's cool enough of me. But it never bothered me. I mean, this is a very small island, Ireland, you know, and I love it very much, and it's my home, and it's lovely to come home to. But I toured the world. I did 5 weeks in Australia, you know, and I'm going to America now. And I'm known all over the world. I mean, we've had #1 albums in Australia, South Africa. We never went to South Africa. We wouldn't go.
Yes.
And we had 3 #1 albums down there. We never went, you know. And we fought against the newspapers, even our own came and says, oh, you're stupid. And said, hang on a minute. Think folk music, you know, come on, lads. And I remember we fought, come on, it's for folk people, for music, it's for people, you know, that's who we are, you know, for God's sake, grow up, you know. Jesus, you know, as Bob Dylan says, how many years does one man have, you know, before they can hear people cry, you know, for God's sake, you know, people have just common sense, you know, when to, you know, as an old fella said, we're watching a movie the other night, if you're going to see a cobra snake, you move around them, you don't put your hand down and let them bite you or try and get them out of the way, you know what I mean? You make, you know, it's, I don't understand it. Music is music, it's free, you know, it doesn't belong to anybody, and I think I love to hear new music and new music coming through, new songs, like Jerry has just written that song, Jerry Fleming, I go back to Jerry, The Hit, for instance, was great, you know, for it was something that I would never do, never. And I remember getting up from the table and walking away from Declan and Neve, and I just said, I'm not interested. I said, because this has got nothing to do with songwriters, you know. This is going to be another X Factor stuff, and I don't want to go in there. I said, nothing to do with my world. I said, I just live in a different world, you know. And fair play is doing the kids great. I'm making a few of them, putting their names out there, but it's got nothing to do with me. And I'm too old. And I walked away. And they followed me. They said, no, we really want you to do this, and we want your input in it with the pipes and stuff. And I said, okay. So then when I heard Jerry's song, I wanted something to, because I must say something to Jerry today. I hadn't played the pipes for a while, you know, and I hadn't put the pipes on a song for a long time, actually on an album for a while. And it gave me a great incentive again to use the pipes, you know, songs again. So once I heard Jerry's song, I knew the pipes would sit on it. So coming back, it was great to put the songs out there for the songwriters, and at least they got a showing of it, you know, of their songs. And as I said, there was no losers. Everybody won it, you know. And everybody was a winner, you know. It's a great show. And like, I just enjoyed it. I loved locking horns with the boys and seeing what they've got and what ideas they have. And you had no help, you know. You were like given a few bob and said, okay, off you go, there's your budget. You got to produce, arrange that with no help. You've got an engineer, and that's it. Right. We need it in 3 weeks. Right. And that was it.
Did it bring back memories of being on top of the pops? That kind of process, that pop music process. Because you were on top of the pops. I'm not sure how. I'm not sure how often.
It's like top of. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's just all that sort of gutsy lighting, I suppose you call it. You know, so it's a part of that. I suppose Las Vegas sort of feel, you know, that everybody likes to have around them. It's prosperous, I suppose. Some people look at it as, you know, flashing lights and things like that. Yeah, I enjoyed it. You know, I thought Top of the Pops was very funny because, like, when you see the size of us. As you notice, when the band were getting, you know, a few more bob, we were getting richer and richer going up, you know. The groups were the boys were getting bigger and all the photographs on the albums were massive. And the last album we made, like, and we're going, Jesus, we're doing great, you know. Yeah. And you can always tell the bands that are really struggling, you know. And you see them, the deterioration of bands. Just look at the albums, and I bet you're all laughing. I bet you see them all young, growing up, and then you see them all going back the other way, you know. A walking stick in the end of the monocle, you know. But yeah, it's great. I love it, you know.
When you look back to when the Fureys were successful in the 70s and 80s, and the way you operate now, your music as a business, I presume, what was the industry like back then to kind of be a part of? I mean, what was money a concern? Was getting a record deal a concern? Was selling records
Yeah,
a concern?
Yeah, you had to get in there. You had to start to go to festivals. And I remember myself and Eddie, the first Cambridge Folk Festival we went to, they would give us a gig if I played the five-string banjo because they heard I could play this banjo. They didn't want the pipes for some reason, I don't know. And so they didn't want me to play the banjo, and I wouldn't. So what we did, we were smart. We went around the corner, there was a big Irish pub, well, a fella that had a pub, he was an Irish fella, and we took the room upstairs. So we took the door, and we packed it, you know, for the 2 nights during the Cambridge Folk Festival. So we had the Cambridge Festival in the daytime, and we did 2 nights in this pub, which kept us there, and we met some great musicians who came out of the festival, and they came to hear myself and Eddie. And one of them was Ralph McTell. That's how we met Ralph first, you know. And they'd heard about these 2 Irish kids that were doing an Irish programme. So we always put it out there as we're an Irish duo, you know. We never sort of, we're a folk duo, we're an Irish folk duo. We put that up there all the time. And the pipes, of course, was a big part of it. But it was top of the pops. I think the best, the ones that got, I think, the most enjoyment there was I'd say Jim Hand and Mick Clark and the boys that put it there, you know, because we were in America when we heard about it, and they'd put a lot of work into it, especially Jim. And we were just amazed. And I think the big break was Terry Wogan. We knew Terry when he went over there. We'd met Terry before we'd actually moved back to Ireland. He'd moved over there. So me and Eddie had met him, and we'd done a radio programme with him. And we'd also already known John Peel before, and they were great buddies. So when Terry heard that me and Eddie and the boys were a part of the Furey Brothers, you know, he said, oh, wow. And then he heard Sweet 16, and he played it every morning on his breakfast show without being told or asked to do it. He just did it, and people just took it. And it was selling in excess of 13,000 copies a day. That was amazing. It just took off. And then it just, for some reason, it just went, it was like, got to number 12, and that was it. Just disappeared. But I Will Love You, the Tom Paxton song, got to number 26 in the British charts as well, and we didn't go over for that, you know, because it wasn't the top 20. But it all fizzled out then. We decided to go back and do an immigration album, and we did the Steal Away album, which was great, and we needed to do that we'd met all these the lads away from home, the young kids, you know, the Irish kids like we were, you know, at that age. And they liked to get in touch with you and talk. And I said, Eddie, we should try and do an album instead of immigration stuff. I mean, you know, there's some terrific stuff out there, you know. Kiss the children from me, Mary. Do not let them sign or we tell them that I'm thinking of them. Though it breaks my heart to leave, you know. It's beautiful stuff. And we dug up all of these great songs, and we roped Phil Coulter involved. We got Phil to give us a bit of help with just the arrangements of it. And Phil finally came in and produced it. And we did all the arrangements between us, which was great. And it was an absolute beautiful album, an incredible album. I think one of the best albums we ever did. And I think the last album we did together as a band was fantastic. It was The Scattering, which was another immigration album. And we did 2 more albums after that, Cladder Road and... which were, I think Cladder Road for me is probably one of the best acoustic albums we ever made. And there's just the 4 of us and the 4 brothers. And it was just before Paul passed away. So, like, it's great music. But yeah, it's great. You know, where do you go? John Peel, you know, he I remember when we were going in against the Beatles, and every week he'd say, this week, so-and-so is gone, we have the Beatles, and we have Finbar and Eddie Furey, we have blah, blah, some other grass, and it went all the way down to ourselves and the Beatles. So I remember we were parked under the motorway in London, listening to the radio. We were driving this big old Daimler, myself and Eddie. We were doing a gig someplace down in Croydon, I think it was. So we pulled in to hear what the read was, and I couldn't believe it. And he says, he played a number 2, and he played Jojo. You know, Jojo was a man who told you was a woman, but he was another man. And then he says, why pick for the single of the year as Finbar and Eddie Furey? And of course, we got Jerry Rafferty phoned up. Jerry was looking for us all over, because Jerry wrote it, you know. It was fantastic. Like they hadn't been taken out of their cradle now for about 6 or 7 years. The Beatles had won everything, taken it all. And for 2 Ballyfermot kids and a Glaswegian kid to come in and start to shake them up a bit, it was lovely. Yeah, it was a great feeling.
Did you have much? Did you have much interaction with the business side of things, or did you let your management take?
Fortunately, I
taking
married
care of
an
that?
absolute wizard in business. Sheila just
Right.
minds my back.
That helps.
Sheila, I must put a crown. If anybody deserves an award, it's Sheila. Trust me, that's my wife, and she's here tonight. Like Sheila, she's been like with me and Eddie when Eddie and I were on the road. Sheila looked after the gigs. You know, she'd book places where we'd be staying. She always knew. So Sheila was always a part of my life, you know, and always will be, like, big part. She takes care of the publishing company, and, like, if we need to talk about something, then we talk about it. If we don't, we don't, you know. So it literally handles itself, you know.
Right.
Sheila but she knows the business side of it, you know. So she keeps it good. If it was left up to me, I'd give it all away, trust me.
Yeah, I mean, well, so obviously you're kind of quite lucky that you had a tour manager, tour accountant, etc., etc. Do you think, in your experience, are musicians as a kind of species well equipped to deal with the business side of things?
No. I mean, Woody Guthrie, I heard Daryl Adams say was a total loss. Woody was absolutely, and Daryl was as bad, you know. Jack Kelly, most of the lads I ever met need help, you know. I mean, you just don't have a business brain, you know. You know, a businessman thinks about, you know, different things. I just, you know, I wouldn't be thinking about the same things. I've often sat down and a guy be talking about something about, like, mining or something, or he's got this someplace, and I'm interested in what he's doing, but then he gets into the nitty-gritty, you know, details of it, and I'm lost, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm the same if I'm talking to somebody about music. I have to be careful that I don't go above what I'm talking, you know, I don't keep eye contact with them too, because, you know, we're different, you know, we think differently, completely, yeah. I think musicians are we're a breed of our own, you know.
If there was, I mean, the audience here, they're songwriters, they're musicians. Some are successful, some are getting there, some might not get there, some are there, and that's terrific. What advice would you? What's the most important piece of advice you would give to any musician, particularly those kind of just starting off their career? Because you're at the other side of it now, really, aren't you? You know, you started off successfully, you maintain that, you still are. What would you say to them?
Just for me, if you're going to do your music and you feel that it belongs, you know, it's here, that it belongs to be put out there to the world, you know, you believe in it, you know, keep banging the door down, you know, you have to keep doing it. Business, I don't know about the business side of it. I've never cared, you know. The way I look at it, you know, I'd never be stuck for money. I just give me a banjo or a guitar to go out in the street. It doesn't bother me. I'll busk right out there. It doesn't bother me. I'll earn the price of $1 million an hour, you know. But, like, I'm lucky that way, you know. But musicians, songwriters are coming up. First of all, get a good publishing company, because somebody you can trust, you know. Better still, form your own, you know. And if you're married, or if you've got a girlfriend or a partner, whatever, you know, just always, I find that if a musician leaves, he just takes it and does it on his own. If you bring your partner in or your wife in, as a share and help her in there, you know, she'll mind, like two heads are better than one.
Yeah.
And I find that every musician needs help. I don't care who he is, you know, they all need help on the road. We're not sat there. You get the odd one he's geared himself up and says, all right, I'm going to be a copy of Woody Guthrie, I'm going to be the saviour of the people, you know. And he goes out there, and of course everybody believes in it, and they take him off and the whole lot, and he's filling his bank account, whatever's going on. And then you get the other musician that goes out there and he says, I really want to do this because I believe in this stuff, you know, I really do understand this music and I want to share it. And he's the guys that will go out and sing among his own in the middle of the street, you know. And he'll busk and won't be afraid to do it or be ashamed of it or whatever you call it, you know. That's the music I like, you know. I like the freedom in people, you know. I hate music that's, you know, I hate like if I go into a room and, for instance, Nashville one night, I was watching a thing called Good Old Boys in Nashville. It was very good music now. But like there was no movement in it, you know. And the lads were sitting there. It was the dearest place in town, trust me. Like there was music down the road, it cost you $5 to get in there. And it was 10 times better. Yeah. But because the boys were building the Grand Ole, whatever it was, you know, and I come out of there feeling deprived, you know. And then I went 10 minutes down the road and saw these two kids playing like, man, could they write songs? And I'm saying, what was I doing up in this place? So I mean, you got to make room and move the kids forward. And the outfit was, not to be wise old man, this place was just full of these very old, I mean, my age now.
Right, okay.
But like just sitting there, go on, Hank, okay, Mick, okay, Paddy, you take it. Yeah, okay, buddy, okay. And the audience, like, they didn't give a shit about the audience. The audience was sitting there going, you know, and they're having a great session, but just tinkling along, and there's no sort of, come on. I was trying to get the banjo, give it a blast, you know, but it's sort of my feet were moving. But I think energy is a big thing in your life, you know. Keep your energy with your music. Keep your energy with your, you know, don't ever let anybody say that it can't be done. Right. Say, yeah, of course you can do it. There's always a way around it.
You mentioned the banjo there. Do you want to, would you be interested in giving another?
I'd show you, yeah. Are you enjoying it? It would be great if we had a pint, wouldn't it? I'm going to sort of just play you this. I've started to be working on the banjo. I've been working on this piece of music. It's like a couple of years ago, I got a phone call from the lads from U2. And Bono said it was Sean Penn's 50th birthday. And would we put a gig together for him? Or do a concert? And I said, I won't do a concert, we'll bring him down to Donahue. And that's where we took him. So we got all the lads, John Sheehan and Patsy Watchhaw, and all the boys were there. And he was asking me, he's very interested in music. And I was telling him that our big influence, I suppose. Well, my people always said that our influence, Shanhouse music would have come directly from the Gothic monks, you know. And this instrument, let me show you something. If we were to play something with, say, Irish, if we can get it.
How did you do that?
It's just like if you, it's like Western music. I haven't tuned it. You can play like a. And Billy, who was a hero when he was only 12. Shot a man in Mexico and sent his soul to hell. The kid was crazy. and all the newspapers wrote. The man had no chance against the kids' fast class, and it's for their fault. So when you're playing, it's the same. It's doubling up the timing. I'm playing in like a, and you don't know. So like I can't. It's completely different. If you go from one, if you go from this to this, you know, and then come back to Western style music, it sort of gives your head a shock, you know, from the different. But that's where we get our Shannos music from. So
Really,
it's just
brilliant.
to give you an
Thank
idea.
you.
And it's like this part is very Spanish when you go, where'd you come from? You had the Moors, you know, brought in. And then the Spanish music, the Arab music, all that. And there's no other instrument I know that can do that. That's the same tuning.
Yeah.
So imagine, so that instrument came from, as probably just a piece of wood with maybe, who knows, St. Patrick.
Sure.
Who knows where he came from? Huh? Well, come on, Wales, give me a break here.
Okay. Right, we're going to jump into the 90s, the late 90s, and you left the Fureys, or they split up, or whatever happened, and you became a kind of effectively a kind of solo.
Yeah.
On your own. Was it that a difficult decision to make, or not?
Yeah, it was. It was very difficult. I remember I made a decision in 1987. I knew then that for me, we weren't going anywhere. You know, it was you know, automatic pilot. You know, like most of the bands get into it, you get into a groove and you can't get out. You know, and you're locked in that position. And it's like being typecast as an actor. You just can't get out of it. You know, and I didn't like this, you know. I'm a free spirit. I like to move, you know, with music, and I had too much music left, you know. I remember I talked to my brothers when we were in Australia. I said I'm leaving, but we had about 3 years of contracts to fill. So I said to this guy, I said no more. I said after that date, and I remember we did Carnegie Hall at 2:00 in the day, Sunday afternoon, and we sold it out, and it was an incredible feat. And 2 days later, we played in New Haven, in the small little place, and in the Irish Centre. It was a great night, fantastic room, about twice the size of this, but so tight, and people were great. And it was a wonderful night. And I remember I said, that was it, we just shook hands. And I said, I'm leaving. And then he said, okay. And Paul said, fine. And there was no messing. And Paul said, I said, I've got more work to do. I said, I can't do this every night, you know, this is not right. And I was neglecting my pipes. I was singing more than playing the pipes, you know, and lots of stuff, you know. So I had all these songs that I'd written that I wanted to put out there, and I'd written actually Walking With My Darling and Walking With My Love, and I had no chance of putting it out there. And then there was people bringing in other stuff, like, and so it sort of lost the run of itself. So we became two bands. Like, I would go on stage with Eddie and the boys and open up the gig with the boatman, and we'd get it going, and it was great. And then I would back off. You know, let Eddie take it and George take it then. And I backed off every year, backed off more and more and more, till it was like nearly 2 separate gigs. And then I would join them for the odd song. And then in the end, once we left, the boys were perfect, you know. And once I knew they were happy, I backed off, you know. And so they were great, you know. I was very proud of them. They took it up and they picked it up, and, you know, we went there. It was something I had to do.
Sure.
And now, you know, when I look back, it was very important to Eddie too, because like I was making all the decisions too, you know, the bottom line was down to me with the lads, and, you know, and for me, it was great relief to get away, so I didn't have to do all of this, you know. And Eddie it was lovely for the Eddie and George to take control of it as well, you know. So in a way, it was like saying, I've got enough, I'm stepping off. You just keep the train going. Right. And he did, you know, and they did it so well too, and I'm very proud of him. And like I was talking to Eddie there the other night, it was his birthday on Christmas Eve, and I was talking to him on the phone a couple of weeks before that. He was just going on tour, and I just come back off tour. So we get together now and again, yeah. Sure, we have a cup of tea, and the only thing about it, we end up sort of laughing about things until we actually cry, you know. I'm serious. We get into giggles and we laugh till we actually cry, and then the two of us we just look at each other and go, the two heads and go,
Yeah.
nah, see you next year.
Right.
Or whatever, so that's it, It's just so many memories in there, like, to end them at the end of the conversation is,
Yes.
great times.
Okay. Now, you have another string to your bow, and that's acting. You might not.
Not to me,
Not,
Bob.
okay, not to your bow. Well, irrespective of what you might think, you actually
I enjoyed it.
were in a Martin Scorsese movie. Not many Irish musicians can say that. That movie was Gangs of New York, and you've also had a quite a kind of strong role in Love Hate as John Boy's father. If I could maybe just briefly go back to Scorsese first, how did that happen? How were you approached?
It was very, it was actually Tommy Keenan, the piper, Tommy, a great friend of mine, Tommy, a lovely player. Tommy was playing in Jury's Hotel for the American tourists. So and his bag exploded on stage. While he was tuning up, his bag went bang! And of course all the tourists made a run for the exit signs.
We shouldn't laugh, but that's
story.
funny.
That's true.
Yeah.
And he phoned me up and he said, "Yes, I'm in terrible trouble. My bag has exploded on stage." And I know it because my bag, it happened to me in Sacramento and the place just done a runner. It makes a noise. And like when it happened to my bag, there was cigarette dust and rings and watches I hadn't seen for years blew out of the back of me. Oh, Jesus, that's where they went. Get that picked up. Anyway. But and there's no escape, you just can't play them anyway. So Tommy was in an awful dilemma. So I said, he picked up a bit of rubber, stuff. I said, come up to the house and we'll put one together. So we're actually rolling around the back garden with a tin of glue and putting this bag together. And we're stuck together with this, keep this bag down. And my wife, Sheila, phoned. And she said to me, Finn, she tapped the phone on the window, phone call from New York. They want to know, will you have an audience with Martin Scorsese's? And it actually didn't trigger because I'm stuck together with his bag. And I'm saying, tell him the phone back in a minute. We're busy. We're making a bag. And she says, Martin Scorsese's? Goodfellows? And I went, pizza? I swear. And then she says, the movie. And I went, oh, jeez. Oh. And it hit me. And then I thought it was Eddie or someone messing. I said, hello? Yes, who is this? Because you get lads from messing in Ballyfermot, Hello? And then I heard he say, I got your name from Brendan Gleeson and Daniel Day-Lewis. They said what they were talking about and said, I would like to bring you over to do this song. So I said, where? He said, over to Rome. I said, okay. So we booked the tickets and said, we'll see you there. And we arrived there. Oh, Sheila was leaning out the window going, two tickets. And all I could see in her eyes was Leonardo. Anyway, off we went, myself and Sheila, and we had a great time. It's a funny story. We get out there anyway, and we get on this big set. It's amazing. It's where they made Ben-Hur. It's like the chariot race. They built the whole of the docks in this place. I never saw anything like it. It's like turning the clock back. And when we got on the set, Daniel Day-Lewis was doing this scene where he had that lemon tartan trousers on, where he's showing her walking around the town like a peacock. And they finished that set and they come straight over to me, myself and Sheila. And he introduces himself and he says to me, the two guys tell me that was only two guys could sing this song properly. One of them is dead and you're the other guy. And I said, well, we better hurry up, so. Just messing with him. And they were obviously talking about Luke's anniversary today, Luke Kelly, and we were down at Dunhu's this morning with Luke, and it was great with young Damien Dempsey. Do you know the young musicians, the young songwriters? Do you know, I'm so proud of them. It's in great hands at the moment. Watching young Damien Dempsey this morning, and the tribute he gave to Luke was great.
Yeah, he's kind of carrying on the torch.
Isn't it great? Yeah, I love that. That was great to be a part of. That's another side of the music coming through again, So it's lovely. It's like the influence, So it's great, yeah.
Love Hate, completely different experience, I presume.
Yeah,
perhaps a slightly lesser budget than Gangs of New York, maybe.
Gangs of New York was like, when I did the song, it was very funny because he brought me down to this bar then, and I had to do a dance. So I had to actually dance and sing the song. And I said, you're joking me. I said, I've never stood up in my life. I said, I'd sit down playing pipes. I sing sitting down. So I said, what am I going to do to dance around? So I had to get some movement going. So fair play to me. Straight back to my mother and all my musical. Doris Day,
Doris
I'll never
Day.
forget it. The Deadwood stage. Oh, the Deadwood stage is coming. And I said, that's the same rhythm. Put that on. To off I went. And I started singing, and it was great. I had great fun. But it was 11 verses and 22 choruses, and you couldn't stop. You had to keep going all the way through. And I had a great time. We were there for like 8 or 9 days. And I remember when we finished the scene, what we were doing, I asked him, was he finished with me now? And he came outside and made such a big fuss of myself, and Sheila was fantastic, and Leonardo DiCaprio, Henry Thomas, Daniel Day, everyone, and all the lads came out and, you know, they broke the whole thing just to come out and say, you know, it was lovely. He said the place is going to be very quiet around here without you now, because the stories, the bit of crack, singing a few songs. And it was one of the lads' birthdays in the middle of the scene that we were doing. So we took over a pub in Rome called the Fiddler's Elbow, and we got a lend of a set of pipes. Trust me, I found a set of pipes in Rome, and we found a great Italian folk band that sang Irish music. They backed me on the song, on the movie. So we had a gig for that, and we went to an ice cream parlour at 3 o'clock in the morning, loaded with gargle. And I'm trying to figure out, what in the name of James we doing in an ice cream parlour at 3 o'clock in the morning? Then I copped this bottle of wine in the corner. I said, I'll have a one of them, I said, and one of them yolks, you know. And I remember sitting down drinking wine and eating ice cream at 3 o'clock in the morning in the middle of Rome. And the place was mobbed with people eating ice cream. It was fantastic. And we went straight to the set after that for makeup. That was the fight scene.
Yeah, you'd have needed
they wouldn't
that,
let me in that one.
Do you like acting?
I love it. I think it's great. It's great fun. It's like, it's just the same as playing music. It's like when I'm singing the Green Fields of France, I'm sitting there, you know, and I'm talking to this man, you know. Or if I'm singing like that song I sang, I was further than I thought I was, you know, I'm there. Yeah. Acting's no different for me, you know. If I'm just not great at it at the moment, but I'm getting good at it, you know.
Right. You like being busy, don't you, I think?
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm full of energy.
We were saying before we came down that you're going to LA quite soon with a play that you've just finished, or you've just...
Well, we're doing, it's not a play, it's sort of an idea I have. It's a thing called Jacko. I've been writing it for a few years. Plus I've got the book, you know, which is about the Furey family growing up through my eyes, you know, it's through as a kid, you know, and on. So, and the book will be ready to go as well by the time I go. So, and the new album out there as well. But I actually would like to make an album out there, you know, or start an album out there, because there's loads of great musicians that I haven't worked with yet that I'd like to, and it's nice to lock horns with people, you know, in the studio, and it's something different for me to do. So we're just going to go out and check it out for a couple of weeks, you know, throw a few ideas around. I've got a few friends out there minding our backs, so we're in good hands, and myself and Sheila are just going to make a holiday out of it. And then there's a friend of ours, he's from Clare, he's a great pal of mine, and we're flying out to him on the way back, and he's looking after us for a few days. Right. So
is the key to what you love doing just doing what you love doing? If that doesn't sound like a silly question.
I enjoy it, you know. So music, once I hit the stage, I just play, you know. I just love creating music. I just love putting stuff together. I was working on a song with the guitar there tonight before I came in, and I was supposed to sing this song this morning for Luke, which I did, you know, as a tribute, which I also wrote, you know. And then I have this other one in the back of my brains at the moment I was trying to get off. The chords are so close to me, and that's what it's like at the moment. It's like being on. But this other song that I wrote is it's a typical song about a kid who's worked in a city, but it's not suiting him, you know. It just doesn't suit him, so he has to get out of there, you know. And it happens living on IOU streets and for the rest of your life, you know. Not known, working for somebody that you never even meet, you know. Yeah. And it's one of these great songs. Well, I think it's a great song. My young Finbar, he's a very good singer and a great guitar player as well. And also like Martin and the High Kings, you know. And Martin said, wow, what a great song. So it's, you know, they come at you now and again. Yeah.
You've also, I think, got a nephew in a band called The Young Folk, is that
He's
correct?
Brilliant, yeah. Anthony Furey.
Yeah,
that's
correct.
George's kid. I must talk about Anthony. Andy's a very special, Andy's a gifted little kid. He's unbelievable. Like he looks about, he's same as Eddie. He's got the same sort of genes in him as Eddie, you know. Eddie is like, I won't tell you how old he is, but you could put him into his 50s, you know. but he's a couple of years older than that. But Anthony looks like he never got any older than 16, you know.
Sure.
And he's a gorgeous looking kid, and what a great guitar player, and a great songwriter. I'm very proud of him. And the band, they're doing great around New York at the moment. They're rocking New York, the underground in New York, yeah.
Yeah, sorry here.
You know, yeah, keep my eye out for it. We were in Arlington Cemetery there 2 years ago, myself and Sheila. We just went up to have a look at it. And there was a funeral going on with these two horses, and the banjo is an incredible thing for mimicking something. If you can, the whole thing was the horse walking too fast, and obviously getting them there, you know. And there's a group of people walking behind, and it was something like this, you know, you get the noises. Good evening to you, sir, Mr. Washington. I said, good evening to you, sir, Mr. Washington. You know it's easy to carve his name on the stone. Not easy to tell the truth, Mr. Washington. It's not easy to tell the truth, Mr. Washington. Just to give you an idea. You know,
Finbar Furey, thank you very, very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.